Hi there, my name is Tracy Alloway. I'm an executive editor here at Bloomberg, also the co-host of the Odd Lots podcast. I am very pleased to be introducing our next guest. We have the CEO of the largest crypto exchange in the world. We're going to be speaking with Changpeng Zhao, better known as CZ, of course, the CEO of Binance. CZ, it's lovely to be speaking with you again. We have to start at the obvious point. The big drop in Bitcoin, the big drop in the crypto complex overall. What is going on?
Thanks, Tracy, for having me. So with this, with the price, we don't know what's causing it. There's a lot of news that's going on right now. There's positive news and negative news. There's a China ban Bitcoin again, and then there's the El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender. There's a lot of news in between. So it's very hard to tell. From our perspective, we just see people trade or placing orders. So, but if we compare to like a year ago, like the markets are still like 10x bigger, 10x more active, etc. So we think it's still a pretty healthy market.
Definitely a lot bigger than it was 10 years ago, that's for sure. But from your perspective, again, a massive crypto exchange, how significant would it actually be if China were to crack down on crypto in a significant way? There have always been open questions around exactly how much mining is actually in China, what exactly the influence is, how big a deal might it be, and what's your take on how they might go about doing that from a regulatory perspective?
Right. So I think there will be some short-term impact for sure, given that there are a decent number of miners or there were a decent number of miners in China. But no, this is not the first time that China's banned Bitcoin. There's multiple bans throughout the years. In 2013, there was one notice. 2017, there was another notice. And so 2013 was slightly more vague. 2017 was specifically no ICOs in the country and no crypto exchanges in the country. And then now it's like no miners. So it's a stepwise increment, but it's a big country. But then we've seen previous bans of any country on crypto, like Bitcoin recovers afterwards anyway. So I think short term though, you will have some impact on mining, etc. But we're seeing a lot of those miners moving out of China to other places. There's some of them are sending their miner equipment to overseas. There's big shipments, etc. And Binance run a mining pool, which is around the top 5. And yeah, so we see a lot of clients moving around. But the short term, there'll be an impact. Long term, I think we'll be okay.
All right. Speaking of stuff moving overseas, you mentioned a positive catalyst for Bitcoin recently, and that is the adoption by El Salvador of the cryptocurrency. Do you expect similar moves from potentially other countries?
Yes, absolutely. I think I honestly did not expect El Salvador or any one country to move this quickly to force Bitcoin as a legal tender, meaning forcing all the merchants to accept it as a legal currency. But once one country does it, the race is on. It's a competition. And I think what now people realize is that adopting Bitcoin cryptocurrencies as a legal tender actually makes your local economy stronger. You are less prone to other governments or interventions, etc. And it actually makes your nation more solvent. It actually makes your nation more independent, stronger economy, etc. And there's many small countries that they never aspire to have their currency to be the global dominant currency. Many of them may adopt cryptocurrencies. So I think this will definitely continue.
Another not so good thing that has happened to Bitcoin recently has been Elon Musk's apparent about turn on the technology. He's been tweeting about how Bitcoin actually isn't very environmentally friendly. I know you have responded to some of that criticism on Twitter. Is it now CZ versus Elon Musk when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, no, it's definitely not CZ versus Elon. Number one, it would not be a fair fight. I wouldn't win. Number two, I think we live in cryptocurrencies, we live in a free world. Anyone can say anything they want, and we live in countries where, in a few countries in the world, there's freedom of speech, and Elon lives in one of those countries. So he's to a large extent free to say what he wants to say, and we as a community, as the industry, needs to learn how to properly respond to that. Given that he has 57 million followers, he do have quite a bit of influence. And I would actually hope that he realized that he had that influence, and that with that great power, it comes with great responsibilities. I think Elon wants to be a humorous guy, but tweeting, but he has to realize that his tweets do have the power to move markets, and when that happens, people get damaged, etc. So he's got to be a little. I would recommend him to be a little bit more careful, but it's his freedom. It's not me against him. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but it's his freedom.
All right, fair enough. I wanted to turn now to Binance and your business. Now, recently, your CFO left rather abruptly. There's lots of speculation around that departure. We know that the business is facing several regulatory probes. I know that you can't comment on those due to legal reasons, but what's your response? What would you say to people who are potentially concerned about the CFO leaving unexpectedly in that way?
Right. So Binance as a team has had very little turnover. If you look at the internet startup in the US, in Silicon Valley, 3-4 years in, the founding team would have changed a lot. Binance actually had very low turnover rate at our senior levels. But we can't, Wei left for personal reasons. He left on very good terms. He contributed to Binance for 3 years. And look, there will be some turnover. So yeah, we wish him luck, and we want to thank him for his services. So there's not much more I can comment. Like, these things happen. It's not such a big deal. Okay,
let's turn more broadly and talk a little bit about one of the big developments this year, which has been the rising popularity of DeFi. A lot of really interesting technological developments happening there. How does a centralized exchange like Binance actually compete with a DeFi or decentralized exchange, something like Uniswap, where you can basically go on and start trading without having to deal with a middleman, without, in some cases, even having to enter much personal data? What do you have up your sleeve when it comes to competing with DeFi, and how much competition would you expect that to be?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, we don't view ourselves as competing with decentralized exchanges. Like our centralized exchange, we don't view that as competition. Fundamentally, they service two different type of users, actually. The centralized exchanges service users who are more comfortable with the email, password, they're okay with providing the KYC information, etc., and they get customer support if there's an issue. Decentralized platforms like Uniswap, like PancakeSwap, these are sort of they run on smart contracts. It's great, and there's no KYC, as you said, there's no KYC AML information provided. And you have to hold your own keys. If you lose your own keys, you lose your funds, and then no one can help you. So we kind of view those two as very separate products. And instead of us competing with them or fighting with them, we actually want to join the DeFi space. We want to provide more products in the DeFi space. So we want to provide both. So we traditionally, Binance do have a decentralized exchange, which is slightly different from the current DeFi, but we funded, we bootstrapped, we give grants to a number of DeFi projects, including PancakeSwap and other things like that. So we don't view it as competition. And we don't view it as fighting. We want to join. We want to promote all of them.
Well, just on that note, I know you have your own smart chain project going on. Yeah. How is that going? And do you have any additional upgrades planned? Any other projects when it comes to that?
Right. So the Binance Smart Chain is actually a community project. It uses the Binance brand name. We let people use the Binance name all over the place. We don't really protect it that heavily, as long as it's we think relatively positive for the ecosystem. It is a basically feature similar same to Ethereum, but faster, high capacity. I think my understanding is that project team, that sort of project community is focused on just improving performance, handling more loads. Binance Smart Chain has not really taken users away from Ethereum. The Ethereum guys are still using Ethereum. The Ethereum blockchain, the number of transactions have now dropped. But the Binance Ethereum transaction fees are relatively high, so Binance Smart Chain is much lower cost. So I believe there's a much wider range of people who are now able to or willing to pay like $100 per transactions, and they're now all using Binance Smart Chain. So now we can see the Binance Smart Chain transaction volumes are somewhere between 4 to 7x of Ethereum. So there's actually more users using that. So we see that as a complement. Again, not such direct competition.
Well, there's another project that you are about to roll out, and that has to do with NFTs or non-fungible tokens. What are you planning there, and how difficult, or is it potentially a different type of challenge to roll those type of assets out on a centralized exchange versus something like a cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so NFTs are slightly different than what we typically call cryptocurrency fungible tokens. So basically, you can any one Bitcoin is pretty much the same as the next Bitcoin, whereas NFTs is the one item, the unique. So in terms of that type of behavior, the trading technology involved, it is somewhat different. But I do believe NFTs are unlocking a huge potential in the crypto space. It provides a new way for creators to monetize their work, which wasn't available to creators before. So this is huge. And so in fact, we are rolling out 2 NFT platforms at the same time. One launched last week, one's launching this week. One centralized, the one last week's decentralized, the one this week is centralized. So we're actually always providing both options to users. We don't know which one will be more popular, but both are bootstrapped and funded by Binance. We'll just see how it goes. We'll let the users choose.
Certainly never a shortage of things going on in crypto world. CZ, the CEO of Binance, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tracy.